Hello, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I'm Grace Kelly, founder of gracefulcoaching.net, and I'm a transformational coach, helping women really find deeper levels of passion and purpose in their life. So today I'm delighted to be sharing this webinar with all of you on handling the holiday season with more grace and well-being. This seems to be a topic that has touched the heart of many of you, given that at this time of year, people can get into stressful thinking and people can experience a lot more pressure. So on today's webinar, really the objective is for you to use this time and this teaching that I give as a means for you to really just come back to center, settle down those insecurities, and from that place, know what action is right for you. There is so much power when I say this. Settle down and see what then makes sense. You know, it's kind of like common sense, but we tend not to do that. You know, we tend to, rather than settle down, we tend to speed up. We tend to hurry up. We tend to worry more. So use this space and time to really let this be your moment in the day, in the week, maybe even in the whole season, to, you know, really let this be where you settle down and you come back to center. You'll hear me talk a bit more about this as we go along, and today I'm really pleased to be sharing with you some groundbreaking content that has changed not only my life, but the lives of many people that I come into contact with. And those of you that are with me here on the call today, change the lives of my clients. You're going to hear from a couple of beautiful clients that come on and just share their story. Today is not about a big sales pitch, ladies, right? Today is about a connection towards the end of the year to really settle down and see what makes sense. And you can get that from listening to me, but you also can get into a whole new world, a new level in hearing it from other people too. So today I'm really pleased to be handing over the floor to my lovely client, Stephanie Heimel in New Orleans, and handing over the floor as well to Amy Susie, my lovely client over in New York City, near New York City, but working in New York City. So you're going to hear from these women as well, not just me today. I'll just recap that you are in the right place if you're getting stressed out or this time of year is already stressing you out. If you're worrying about money that you think you need to spend, have to spend, would love to spend on family members, yourself and others, and it's causing you any sort of concern right now because maybe it's not in your bank account, or maybe it's just not what you want to do because you just don't want to spend it. Okay, you're also in the right place if you've been feeling lonely and you're kind of on your own out there trying to make life happen, make things happen, and you're just feeling yourself a bit lost in, you know, that lonely feeling which can come up for people at Christmas. And you're definitely in the right place if you are, you know, if you're watching your behavior and you're concerned about your habits. I'm particularly speaking to those of you today concerned about habits around food and alcohol. This time of year brings up a lot of concern for people about putting on weight and about what they're eating and drinking and watching themselves closely. So any of you that are watching how you're doing, be it your behavior, your bank account, you know, how you look, how you measure up, how you compare, you're in the right place. We're going to have such a deep conversation today where it really will be groundbreaking to the point that you're going to walk away from this actual teaching definitely feeling lighter, definitely feeling easier, and definitely knowing how to handle this holiday season with more grace. I am especially speaking to those of you today who are going to spend time with family members, and maybe that can be a little stressful for you. Maybe spending time with family members gets you tense. Maybe spending time with family members brings up all sorts of, you know, past situations. Everything I share today and everything my clients come on to share is pointing you to the key that transforms all these areas that I've just talked about. Whether your concern is food and alcohol, or your concern is family members, or your concern is loneliness, or your concern is just, you know, how do I relax and enjoy myself? What we share here today will be so, so helpful for you. So let's take a minute to ground ourselves. I like to start this way. We're going to take a few deep breaths. We're going to do a little bit of a grounding exercise here, and then we're going to open right up into the content. So join with me if you'd like to in closing your eyes. And I just want you to imagine roots coming from your feet. See these roots going all the way down through the ground, the underground, right down to a rock at the bottom of the earth. And wrap those roots around that rock. Really let yourself be supported right there. See yourself there. Let yourself be there. And as those roots are really being wrapped around that rock, I want you to see golden light coming from that rock. And this is the light of your true soul, your wisdom, your inner being, who you really are. Lightness, easiness, gracefulness. And this beautiful golden light is coming up from that rock, through the ground, through the underground, through your floorboards, through your feet, up through your legs, your thighs, your whole torso, right up to the top of your head. Out through the top of your head and wrapped all around your body. This light protects you and supports you. It gives you your insights that you really need on this particular call today, anything you're looking for. And from this place of light, set your intention now. What is the clarity you need? What is the intention you have for this, for receiving this teaching, and also for this festive season? Take a moment and write it down if you wish. And when you're ready, very gently and easily, just come back in your own time. There is no rushing on this call. And that's where I want to start today. Part of our content, how to automatically fall out of frenzy and urgency and rushing to slow down to the speed of love. You know, this is such a huge piece for me in my own life as well, because I was someone who really spent her life right up to the age of 33. So most of her life in the habit of hurrying up, in the habit of there's never enough time. And why am I saying in the habit of? Because I didn't realize that was a habit of thought. And I meet many, many people today who have that same habit of thought that has them living fast and frenzied. So what I want to share with you to kick off immediately is that the world is not happening to you out there. The world is as you think it. And if your thinking is very fast, very speedy, very quick, you can expect your outer world to be fast-paced. You can expect it to be messy. You can expect it to be less than graceful in its pace, let's say. Now, I didn't know that it was our speed of thinking, our speed of thought, that was creating the speed of life. I was convinced, as I'm sure many of you listening are, I was convinced that the speed of my life was because my commute to work was too long, and I lived in the city, and I overextended myself. I had no idea until about 4 years ago when I came across a deeper understanding around the principles behind every experience in life. I had no idea that the speed of life was lived according to the speed of my own internal thinking. So if you're someone who's finding that you never have enough time, there's always far too much to do, you feel overextended, your bucket's empty, this is good news, because I'm not asking you to shift your calendar. I'm not asking you to get your schedule sorted out. I'm not even encouraging you to set boundaries and say no more often, as many of the experts suggest. I am inviting you to notice how fast you're internally going. And as you notice how fast you're internally going, you start to slow down. One of the beautiful things I get to do with people is help them really, really, really tap into where their thinking is at. And rather than helping them change their thinking or get better thinking, when they tap into where their thinking is at, they automatically, all of us, it's built into us, we automatically fall into a pace of grace. Because we slow down. It's like putting on a light in a dark room. Once you see the speed you're living in, once you put that light on, it changes everything. And this is so hopeful, ladies. This is so hopeful, because it's not about getting your external in order for you to feel more relaxed. Because let me share with you now, if it was about that, I don't know about you, but I would be immediately overwhelmed, because there are so many things that I would come up with that need fix. Well, better do my bookcase. Well, now I better do my wardrobe. Oh God, now I need to do my cupboards. Oh shit, better do my schedule. Better say no to everything. That is not a graceful way to live, right? You're not here to sacrifice and spend your life tidying up and spend your days and your times getting your external in order. I'm not saying you wouldn't do that, but here's what I've seen to be true. As we fall out of our fast-paced, mostly insecure thought, because insecurity always speeds us up. As we fall out of our fast-paced, insecure thinking, we fall into a speed of love, order, gracefulness. And I have noticed that the external takes care of itself. Suddenly, you don't need a timer to make sure you tidy up the kitchen. You're just there getting it done. Suddenly, you don't need a financial advisor to keep you on track with your money. You're just creating order where you thought there was none. So this slowing down to the speed of love, to the pace of grace, is really, really, really hopeful, because it's within you. It's what happens automatically as you catch yourself in the frenzied thinking. How do we catch ourselves? Well, you got to know your personal way. And I'm going to share a few examples that I know will help you across this festive season. One of the ways that my clients know when they're in very fast-paced thinking is that they get tense, right? So they start experiencing symptoms, particularly in the upper body. So one of the things we do is when we're in a lot of fast thinking, we start holding our breath and we don't realize it. And as a result of that, we go like this. So we're living life like this and we're running around like this, right? As we slow down to the pace of grace, to the speed of love, everything relaxes. We fall out of thought and we fall into relaxation. Our bodies, our hearts, our chests open up and our breathing gets a little deeper. And instead of speaking at 120 miles an hour and making sure that we get everything done and doing blah, 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 we speak more like this. Have you ever met people who you've been spending time with and you just can't wait to get away because they're going so fast that you can't keep up? Well, you know, innocently, a lot of the world lives that way and they're just reflecting the speed of their thinking. Now, how amazing is this? That it's not about fixing the external to feel okay. That this empty bucket you currently might find yourself experiencing is going to fill up more than full. All because your thinking settles down. Know when you're speeded up, right? Know your symptoms. Do you talk a lot faster? Do you hold your breath? Do you get tense? I know when I was very speedy, I would get palpitations in my heart. My chest would pump and bang and pump and bang. Like it was that bad. You know, I was en route to work one day as a school teacher on the train and I had to get off the train. I took a major anxiety attack. And when I look back now, although that was a big turning point for me, my mind was going so fast. But I didn't know that. I thought the train was going too fast. I thought that London was too fast. I thought that everything around me was too fast. But me, no, it had nothing to do with the inside of me, right? And this is what we do. Innocently, we attribute our experience of life to the external. And how does my coaching differ? I'm not interested in your external. I don't care what your bank account looks like. I don't really care what food or drink habits you think you've got that need changed. I care about you seeing more deeply where your experience of life is coming from, where your habits and behaviors are actually determined. So that brings me to point number 2 here on our lovely holiday webinar. And do share with me in the comments, like, if you want to share something, like, tell me, are you hearing something in this? Are you getting an aha? Feel free to write your objection. I might not get around to everybody, but, you know, give me a thumbs up if you're feeling a little more hopeful already about what you're hearing, or you're feeling a little bit more relaxed. A lot of people come on my webinars just to feel that essence of well-being, because it rises up within them as they listen to this truth. So if that's you and you're starting to feel that, that's great. Bringing me on to point 2 right today, being a little school teacher here, but making sure we get through it. You know, talking about eating and drinking habits, talking about behavior. You know, this is such an important key area because, see, what I have seen, thanks to this key around knowing when you're lost in thought and knowing when your insecure thoughts are getting the better of you, I have seen that our behavior and our habits change naturally. I have seen that our need for more and more reduces naturally. And I've noticed in clients of mine that even though they come to me and we might be talking about their behavior around food, or we might be talking about what they see as an alcohol issue, or what they see as a weight issue, or what they see as a money issue. Ultimately, as we start to address where the behavior is coming from, where the habit is originating, always here, as they start to slow down in their insecure thoughts, the habit and behavior starts to shift. But you know, it don't just take this from me. I hope it's okay if at this point I call on my lovely client Stephanie. Don't just take this from me. I mean, Stephanie and I work together. You know, she came to me basically, you know, I thought looking for some sort of deeper purpose and passion in her life. And she said, no, Grace, I'd really like to work on, you know, enjoying my life more. And particularly, I'd like to address some habits that I have around food. And I thought, wonderful, this is awesome, because here's someone who recognizes that there's something there, but isn't saying that she has to go and take the next latest diet. So I think at this point, Stephanie, if it's okay with you, I'm going to let you share a little bit. Stephanie, I know you can hear me okay, right?
I can, yes.
I'm going to spotlight your video for a moment. Thank you so much for coming on.
You're welcome.
So tell the audience, tell the ladies listening, like, what has been your experience of this shift in this shift of focusing on your behavior as you've looked in the direction of where your experience is coming from, as we've coached together? What have you noticed more? What have you seen?
What surprised me is that it's effortless. I didn't expect that. I don't know how to put this into words, but Grace and I, in the beginning, I talked about it a little bit, but we haven't really talked about food and my weight or anything like that in quite a while. And it has naturally resolved. All of those behavior issues I was having around food aren't a factor anymore. And I didn't have to think about it or go on a plan or try anything new or any of that. It just resolved. And it's still evolving. You know, I'll notice something new every single week, pretty much, of wow, I'm not doing that anymore, or this is new, or I'm not thinking about that anymore. And it just has been a very natural progression of behavior changes happening quite naturally on their own when I am able to slow down, not have my mind racing all the time, not rushing from technique to technique, and generally just learning how to settle down. Once I settled down, everything started to fall into place for me. Mm-hmm. And that was pretty much my experience.
Yeah. And do you mind sharing with the listeners, Stephanie, because I remember your wisdom brought you something radical about supplements. And we had been, so could you share a little bit about, you know, as you got more in touch with your wisdom rather than your intellect, what sort of changes did you notice?
So the supplements, just a little bit of backstory. Before I started coaching with Grace, early summer, I went to a primary care physician because I wanted to lose weight. And I thought that it would be a good idea to get my blood work done and just get a baseline of where I am, et cetera. So I did that, and she put me on, I did all the blood work, and there really wasn't anything wrong with me. You know, I didn't have some underlying disease or something that needed to be taken care of, but she did put me on a string of supplements to start taking, and it was a lot. And I mean, it was probably 10, 12 pills that I had to start taking during the day. And it got really, at first I felt pretty good about it. And then it just got to be like, I'm thinking about this all the time. Like, do I take this one with food? Do I not take it with food? What's the best time of day to do this? And it really started to bother me because I was getting hypervigilant about it. I didn't realize that at the time, but I really was. So fast forward to when I started coaching with Grace, those type of things started to really stand out to me. And I noticed how hypervigilant I was, and it was really kind of leaving me spinning. And I wanted to get off of them because I really didn't feel any different than I did before. And it was just something that was causing some stress in my life. And that's one of the things I was trying to get rid of, was this constant low level, annoying stress of things that I would worry about all the time. And so I just quite naturally, I stopped taking them. And it wasn't like one day I woke up and I said, I'm not going to take them. I just kind of gradually dropped off when I would finish a bottle. I just stopped taking a few at a time. And we didn't even talk about that either. But I think not that long ago, you mentioned it to me and I was like, yeah, I'm not taking those anymore. And I feel fine. And I'm going in a different direction of, once I started to calm down and feel a shift in my body, I can physically feel a difference in my body now. Mm-hmm. I have such deep states of well-being that my body feels so good, even as it is right now. Yeah. Even with the extra weight. Mm-hmm. It's a feeling I haven't felt, and I don't remember if I've ever felt it. Mm-hmm. But it's such a good feeling. Like I feel so calm and I'm okay. And I know that all of this is going to resolve itself. Mm-hmm. It's just going to take a little bit of time, and I'm not worried about it. Mm-hmm. It's one of the last things on my mind now. And it's just a really good feeling.
That's beautiful. Beautiful, Stephanie. Yeah. And I want to share, ladies, is like, it's so, our world is so pointed towards, the problem, work on your problem, figure out your problem, deal with your problem. And, as Stephanie is sharing here so beautifully, is that her and I have been coaching without looking directly at the problem. And as a result, her well-being is coming back to the surface. And that is a result of settling down. I said at the beginning, ladies, settle down and see what makes sense. This is the result of settling down and seeing what makes sense. Now, Stephanie, what would you say to anyone who was kind of challenged by the idea of slowing down, settling down? Because, of course, we're not talking about slow down as in a technique, go get a cup of tea and sit down. We're talking about getting freedom of mind around your life and your situation. So what would you say to people that might be like, oh my God, this would be scary for me to stop worrying, or tell us a bit about your experience around that.
I don't know that I can explain it. I can say that it happens really organically, and that you just slowly wake up one day and you realize it's your worry is just reduced, and it keeps reducing and it keeps reducing, and something takes its place. Something that's but it's not something new. It's something that's already there and it's deep inside you, and you finally realize it. And once you see that, you can't unsee it. Mm-hmm. So when that happened for me, everything started to pop. Things that I was not coaching about, we weren't talking about it at all. Areas in my life would just pop. And it still happens almost daily with me now. And it's such a good feeling, because I know deep down inside that this is the way that I need to, this is my path. And there isn't any other technique or anything I need to learn. There's really nothing I need to do except realize that all of this is already in me, and I have well-being at all times. Mm-hmm. I just now know how to access it. Yeah. And once I saw that, everything changed. And it really is still changing. I mean, I still have bad days. I still have exceptions, things that I think are exceptions, but they're not. Mm-hmm. And we talk about those, and those too pop. And I just realized that I really can have a good life despite circumstances, despite anything that's going on around me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I've found that to be very, very true.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing, Stephanie. It's so
You're
kind of you
welcome.
to come on. Thank you, darling.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
that as Stephanie is sharing, I'm reminded of the fact that a worried mind is the same as a speedy mind, is the same as an insecure mind. That constant worrying about how you're doing, how you're measuring up, how you're producing or not producing, that constant watching of yourself, okay, is the insecurity, is not your true nature, is not your well-being, is not who you are at your core. And yet it is that particular mind that goes looking for solving the problem, and so again, there's something beautiful and freeing for you to realize, if you are someone who worries about your eating habits or your drinking habits or your indulgences or your weight or any of that, and particularly at this festive season, you want to look away from looking at yourself, looking at your behavior, and you want to look over more and more towards quietening down. Now, when Stephanie and I were talking about her slowing down and quietening down, this is not a technique. You cannot technique this. This is literally through our coaching conversations together, she has popped through her own understanding, as I have shared with her different pieces in different ways. She has pierced through the mind that was so noisy in her head. A lovely colleague of mine refers to this as Bob the drunk guy in your head. Everybody's got a Bob the drunk guy at the end of their street, some alcoholic lying with a bottle of whiskey shouting obscenities at you. Well, you also have him in your head. And he or she is shouting, "You're not enough. You don't look good enough. You look, there you go, eating that again. Look at you. No one's ever going to want you." Your version of Bob is what I really want to help you get some space from. Because as you get space from that loud, incessant voice that you right now keep getting into bed with, your life, you naturally start to slow down, right? That noise loses its grip. And as a result of that, you're quieter internally, you're calmer, your radiance goes up, your beauty goes up. I always say, I wish we could get this into a bottle, because it would be the best selling beauty elixir in the world. But we get it first here, right? And so again, a worried mind, ladies, a worried mind, you want to catch that. You want to know your symptoms for when you're in worry. You want to know your symptoms for when you're stuck in seriousness about life and about everything, because your feeling will alert you. Your habits are your friend. Sometimes when you're reaching for that extra whatever it is, that's letting you know you're going too fast. Slow down. Your habit, your behavior can be your friend. It's letting you know that you're getting lost listening to Bob. I was a child who was always picking at her lips. That was my bad habit. And I didn't realize that I would get into a lot of worried thinking, even as a child, very worried. And so all I could do was start like pulling here. And that stopped only about 4 years ago. I noticed that stopped. That need to pick, because I quietened down internally. I got freedom from Bob. I saw through Bob in an instant, in a coaching session. I saw through what I was actually living like. And that freedom really, it did so much in my life. It dropped me out of self-consciousness. It dropped me out of this habit of needing to always pick up myself. It dropped me out of the need to keep reaching for more. And life has become more graceful. Life is different today. So, you know, it's important that you're getting the main point here, which really is that it's not happening to you out there. And it's not about changing your behavior and fixing your behavior. It's really about knowing what level of speedy thinking you're living in. And the way you're behaving in life, the way your life is, reflects that. It's a great wake-up call for you as you get to know that. Now, I did have a very interesting question come in here, so I just want to refer to that. Rose wrote, I would love to embrace this as I always think I'm moving more slowly than I should. I should be doing more, be more productive, effective if I want changes in my life. It's so scary for me to even contemplate the idea of slowing down, as I feel I'm already not doing enough. Slowing down would be my challenge. That's a wonderful share. Thank you, Rose. So many people on this webinar and this replay relate to that, Rose. You know, I don't know where you are in the world, but I call that the American hustle. I really connect with what you're sharing there. And what I want to say to that, Rose, is the piece I really like in that, or at least for me, this is, you said, I would love to embrace this. That's enough. Whoa, 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 right? I would love to embrace this. Yes, that is enough right there. See everything else you wrote. It's great. It's great for me to be able to read this. But for you personally, that's just the fact you would love to embrace this, that, you know, that's a calling in you. You know, so often, ladies, in life, we get our wisdom, we get our desire. I would love to go in that direction, but then we listen to the aftermath, right? This direction that I'm sharing is about looking at the first bit, the first piece of wisdom, the first desire, the first hit, not the story that goes with it. So I would really encourage you in that respect, Rose, to just, you know, just know that the scariness is what you make up about slowing down. The scariness is Bob the drunk guy, like keeping a gun to your head, and everybody listening who lives in a fast experience of life, keeping a gun to your head. The insecurity keeps the gun there. Hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up. And so you want to be gentle with yourself, but you want to just honor that the changes in your life, well, this is going to sound a little OTT, but how great is your life right now living with the gun to your head? Why not give this a chance and see how good life can get? You know, because I don't know anyone who lives in the fast-paced experience of life having an enjoyable life, you know. So I thank you for sharing that. So many people, Rose, will connect with that, you know. So let's get on now to the next point. I think, you know, it's all related here, ladies, but we'll move on to how to not lose your well-being to other people's opinions and moods, especially family. This is brilliant, because I was someone who always was at the mercy of other people's moods. If someone was in a bad mood, I had to get into a bad mood. If someone was in a good mood, then I could feel okay. And I'm sure many of you listening can relate to that, because I do think it's a bit of a female thing. It's like we get a little bit sidetracked by how other people are feeling, especially those of us in the healing industry, in the coaching industry, in the, you know, the giving of service industry. But there was something really important that happened as I got more and more of a grip around where my experience of life was coming from, particularly people, because people are not the exception, right? And, you know, spending time with family tended to be the one for me that, it was a bit of the exception. So what I would do is I would spend less time with them, or I would check into hotels, or I would, you know, kind of limit myself, or I would lock myself away in my room or something. That was not a connected way to live. That was managing the external to try and be okay. Now, listen, we all have family members that are total assholes. It's true. I have a couple of gorgeous clients in America. They're beautiful women, they're incredible women, and they have parents that basically shame them for not being married, right? They have parents who compare them to the other siblings who are married. And so it's not that people aren't, you know, unfair sometimes, but it's that people live in their world of their thinking and tend to project it onto you. So how do you get freedom from this? How do you not lose yourself to other people's well-being? Well, I am going to call on another lovely client of mine to share a little bit of her experience, because she recently went home to family and she reported back to me that, Grace, it couldn't have been more different than the other times before. And I was like, oh my God, okay, great. Tell me what happened. What was different? What was new? What did you see? So Amy, will you come on and share with us for a few minutes before I talk on with the group here? Tell us a little bit, Amy, tell us a little bit about, you know, how was it for you with family before, and how did you know it was different this time? What changed?
Hi everyone. Yeah, I want to say something you just said earlier really resonated about you locking yourself away or getting out or staying in hotels. It really, like, my heart just kind of jumped, because I felt like I moved to New York City to be away from my family like 25 years ago. So that really resonated, and just always thinking it was them, right? Or I'm different and I don't relate to them. Yeah. But yeah, but this trip, so my mom turned 80, and you know, of course I wanted to celebrate that, and I've been engaging with her, and the last couple of years I've been really working on a better relationship with her, and it's happening. So I helped my family. We put together an 80th birthday celebration dinner for her, and yeah, I mean, since I started working with you, Grace, since the summer, I saw my whole family in September also, and then I just went back right before Thanksgiving. And both times I had a very different experience of I want to say of myself. They were still the same, you know. Yes. They were the same. Yeah, I mean, they're all wonderful people. I can't really say there's anything. There really aren't any assholes in my family. Let me say that. It's just more, they trigger me in certain ways, and they have certain beliefs that I don't align with. So both times, though, I just felt so much more present. I took care of myself better. That was a real kind of key, I think, is I just went about my business. I got up and did, you know, Qigong in the mornings when I was there in September, and I just kind of you say stay in your lane sometimes. I kind of stayed in my lane. Like I felt myself I felt those moments when I was trying to fix something. Yeah. Or like I had to do something to make my mom feel better or make someone happy. There's like a lot of pleasing in me, and a lot of, we all do that. I think in my family, we're always trying to please each other. So it was really just sort of stepping back from that and being in a flow that I've never stayed so grounded, let me say that. And so I told Grace that at the party itself, two of my brothers said very explicitly, wow, you're glowing. Like, what's going on with you? You have such a glow. And I just thought, yeah, it just was like, felt like this contentedness in the middle of, you know, there's 22 people at this restaurant and my family's loud and it's chaotic when we're all together because there's so many people and children, and it's just high energy. But they said that to me, that I was glowing, and I felt like, yeah, I'm glowing. I feel good.
Yeah, awesome. So Amy, just for those that are listening and thinking, well, like, yeah, you know, where do you feel this flow and this glow has come from or emerged from?
Definitely slowing down. which is what you've been talking about. Really just slowing down urgency.
Mm-hmm.
Not like I realized this as Stephanie was talking too. It's not like, I mean, I might be doing some things differently, but I'm still doing all the same things I was doing before I met you, teaching the same classes, and I have the same clients and trying to build a business, but there's a lack now, or there's the thinking of, I have to do, I don't know how to quite language it, but I have to do this, or just feeling so overwhelmed. I had been feeling so overwhelmed for several years. That is starting to dissipate.
Yeah, yeah. And what about personal relationships, Amy? What about, do you want to share anything out there? What else are you noticing with, like, I remember that you had an incredible workshop that you hosted, and someone approached you, and it was, I can't recall exactly, but it was a situation where you told me in the past you might have got really worried about their opinion because you admired them. Do you want to share with us a little bit there? I mean, you don't have to go into the details, but just, what's different?
Yeah. I had been asking Grace, I think prior to the workshop, like when I'm around so many people, there's just like my family, this workshop, there was 12, 13 people coming, I think, just that sort of heightened energy where you do feel sped up. I tend to feel very sensitive to other people's speeds and energies. So there was that. And she just reminded me just to kind of stay in my lane again, be me. But the situation, without going into detail, was just that somebody who I admire and who I have been getting to know came to the workshop and was a little put off by something I did at the workshop, because she felt it's too long of a story, but she felt it was similar to her own work. So she wrote me a lovely email. It was respectful, but just saying, she had feelings about it and she was upset. And so I told Grace that in the past it would have made me so just overwhelmed, and like I felt those feelings rise. I felt those feelings of like, I have to fix this immediately. That's really what the trigger is for me. When someone's disappointed in me or unhappy with something I've done, I feel like I need to fix it immediately, because I don't want that feeling of them being disappointed in me. I can't carry that forward. So this time I read the email and thought, like, I took some breaths. I just slowed down, and I think I texted her back about an hour later and, just said, I'm sorry you feel that way, and I would love to discuss this with you. And we had a beautiful exchange around it, and it was
beautiful.
Great. Yeah.
How much nicer. Amy, thank you for sharing. That was gorgeous. Thank you, darling.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, ladies, and this is I guess the piece I'd like to pick up on off of that is, when you really understand, when you really get the depth of what we're sharing here, you don't spend your life trying to get people's approval and opinion about you. This shifts and change because you really start to see that they're coming to the table with their experience of you based on their thinking, and you're not their thinking, right? You're whatever they're making up. And how wonderful not to get so insecure about someone disapproving of something you do, not to get so knocked off course because of a situation. I remember in my own relationship in the early days with my partner's Italian, and every time he would do his big Italian drama queen type thing, stamp his feet and get all annoyed, it used to shake me to my core. I would take it so personal that, that his reaction to something I did was, oh God, I must have done something wrong. That completely changed when I really got deeper into this conversation and started to see that everybody, not just you and me, everybody is experiencing life and experiencing you based on how they're using thought. And for some people, the best they can do is stamp their feet because they're so caught up in thought. I saw that in my classroom as a school teacher. The 15 and 16-year-old boys, sometimes they would just get really angry and fisticuffs and stamp their feet and get really annoyed. And I came to realize later, oh, that was the best they could do in that situation because they were so caught up in thinking. And, you know, for some people, the best they can do is, you know, so caught up and lost in their thinking, they need to eat, you know, two boxes of cookies. So caught up and lost in their thinking, they need to shop online for 7 hours a day. Like, I know I'm being a bit extreme here, but it's just to share that it's so caught up in your thinking that these feelings of taking life personal, feelings of taking people personally, feelings of needing to engage more, that's where it comes from. We get lost up here. We start going too fast internally. We listen to Bob too intently, and our habits, our behavior, our life reflects it. When I get really caught up, I was going to say my home, but it is my home, but it's mostly my closet. My closet room looks like a hurricane. And Francesco will come to me and he's like, oh my God, where's the bed? Because there's a bed and there's closets. I will literally throw my clothes everywhere and not pick them up. I will throw things everywhere. And it's my sign. This is what I want you to do. I want you to find your sign. It's my sign that I'm going too fast. Because I'm like this. Oh, I don't have time. I don't know what I'm going to wear. What am I going to wear? I don't have time. This doesn't work. That doesn't work. This doesn't work. And the next thing, there's a hurricane all over the room of clothes. So you want to know your signs and symptoms. You want to know what it is for you. And you want to remember what I'm sharing here. Settle down and see what makes sense. The biggest problem for people, the reason they're not enjoying life, is they don't settle down and see what makes sense. They speed up even more and make decisions from an insecure place. It's so innocent. It's really innocent. But you do not want to make decisions and find solutions from the same speedy mind that is creating the problem in the first place. And you want to see your feelings of needing not to disappoint people, needing people not to disapprove of you, needing people to be okay, you be okay with them be okay with you. You want to see that as you're listening to Bob. You are not responsible for people's experience of you. And I have found that when you live in a feeling of well-being instead of frenzy, you're actually a very nice human being. You're actually very kind to the rest of humanity. So you don't need to be worrying about how you come across. And that is how you awaken your inner light so that you shine bright all season long. You might notice that there's a glow goes on with my clients. There's a glow goes on with me too at times. This inner light comes out to shine as we fall out of the frenzied, speedy, insecure thoughts that rule our mind. And this inner light is who you are. You live in this level of well-being and light. You lighten up as you fall out of thinking. You lighten up as you fall out of seriousness, tension, stress, all the things that cause a host of symptoms in the body that really, frankly, are unexplainable for doctors and the best of the best. I spent years trying to figure out what was wrong with my symptoms, what was going on. I went to Harley Street. I went all over the place. Nobody could find it. It was here. as this quietened down, as this got a little bit of space from Bob, the beauty of radiance, health, and well-being is what I found. So we're almost finished here, ladies. I do want to share just real easy 3 top tips for a Christmas and a life you'll actually enjoy to finish up. And my 3 top tips go like this. Top tip number 1, if you really want a life and a Christmas you'll enjoy, you want to use your feeling as feedback, not evidence. So let me share what I mean by that. Your feelings are incredible feedback for the level of thinking you're in. Let me say that again. Your feelings are incredible feedback for the level of thinking you're in. You cannot have a happy thought and have a sad feeling. You cannot have an insecure thought and have a confident feeling. Thought creates feeling, full stop. So you want to get into recognizing what your feeling is telling you about your thinking. And most of humanity is using their feeling as evidence of a terrible future. So they feel insecure and they get more and more and more and more worried. They feel anxious and they get more and more and more and more anxious. No. Okay? Your feeling is letting you know what's going on here. And this is a game changer. It's a game changer, ladies, because you as I have found, as my clients have found, you stop being afraid of your feelings and you use it as an excellent source of feedback for how fast you're going, how insecure you're thinking, how anxious you're thinking. Again, I'll say it again, you can't have a happy thought and have a sad feeling. It just doesn't go together. Okay, so use your feeling as your feedback this Christmas and this next decade. And just get into more connection, be less afraid of the feeling. It's just information. It's just information. And if you find you're in feelings of anxiety, I'm afraid to slow down, I'm afraid to take my foot off the gas, I'm afraid, well, that's telling you you're listening intently to Bob, who is scaring the life out of you. That's all. It's not actually true. You're making it true very innocently, but it's not. So that's tip number 1 for a Christmas and life you'll enjoy. Tip number 2, I do still check into hotels sometimes. I do still limit time sometimes. When I know I'm going into a situation that is going to be maybe pretty tense or a little difficult, or there's a possibility that my bucket's going to get empty pretty quickly, then I do what it takes to, let's call it, I damage control a bit. And you're allowed to do that. You're allowed to do that. You want to consider as tip number 2 for a Christmas and life that you enjoy, this is the question, what works for your well-being? What works for your well-being? You know, I get all sorts of opinions from the outside. Oh, you're extravagant. Oh, you're, what's the word? Oh, you need this, you need that. Oh, you know, oh, can't you just be like us, Grace? No, right? No, because you got to think about what works for your well-being. And so whether you're someone who right now you got kids, you've got a husband to take care of, you've got family to take care of, you've got, I don't know, maybe you have a lot of commitments, you want to be asking yourself that every single day. And for me, what works for me is, you know, really allowing myself and yourself to do what helps. What helps. You know, I spent a week, actually spent 10 days with my mother recently in Paris. And we got into about the 5th or the 6th day, I can't remember. She was supposed to come to Italy for the whole 10 days. And I realized that's not going to work for my well-being. It's not that I don't love my mom. It's just not going to work for me. So I suggested that we go to Paris for half the trip. And she was delighted because she loved to get back to Paris, and so was I. And in the middle of the trip in Paris, she said, you know, Grace, you're so easy to be with. Now, I'd never heard that before from family. You know, it was so significant to hear that. And it was true, because I wasn't rushing her. I wasn't living at the speed of frenzy and getting her to hurry up and do what I need to do, go where I want to go. And we were just connected and together. And I was really pleased that I realized what worked for my well-being, because guess what, ladies? It worked for her well-being too. And I really want you to hear that. As your well-being, as your bucket gets filled up, you have so much more to give to other people. So if you think it's frivolous for you to go stay in a hotel to start your Christmas holidays, or if you think it's frivolous for you to be getting a massage during the holiday time, or if you think it's frivolous for you to be, I don't know, whatever it is you're thinking of doing, it's not. In fact, it's a necessity. Because without your well-being, you have nothing to give. It's the same as if you open your wallet and someone says, can you give me a 20? And all you got is a 5. You can't give a 20 if you've only got a 5. So, you know, let's prioritize the well-being, right? Let's ask what works for my well-being. You will find yourself in happier feelings, more enjoyable. You heard Amy earlier, you know, she got some freedom of mind on our coaching calls around herself and worrying about, you know, people's opinions and worrying about disapproving. But she also said that she woke up in the morning and she did her practices that worked for her and it helped her. Well, what is your practice? What works for your well-being? Do not be afraid to get it this Christmas season and each day of your life. Finally, ladies, my third tip for a Christmas and life that you'll really enjoy is to settle down and see what makes sense. Like, it's not rocket science. I think it's definitely the key takeaway of today's webinar. You know, as you find yourself getting worked up about something this Christmas or this next, you know, at any point in your life, as you find yourself getting more and more worked up, worrying more and more, tensing up more and more, thinking more and more about the problem, please remember these words: settle down and see, and then see what makes sense. Nothing makes sense. No good solution comes from a gun to your head, a worried mind, and a fast-paced mind. Okay? You know, again, go back to point number 1. Let your feeling inform you as to where your mind is at. But here, settle down and see what makes sense is really inviting you to go beyond the noise in your head and the gun to your head that is creating the frenzy, is creating the urgency, is creating the concern about disappointing family members. You know, my greatest joy in life is helping you get freedom from that noise in your head. It's not about doing meditation. It's not about doing yoga. It's not about sitting down with a cup of tea. Although these practices are beautiful, they're not long lasting. If you're interested in the type of well-being that myself and Amy and Stephanie are talking about and sharing with you, then my only invitation to you today is to schedule a call to look at going deeper together, to look at whether or not we're a good fit together for something that you want to go deeper on in your life. That is my invitation to you, and you can look at that. I believe I have a Calendly link nowadays. You can look at that on calendly.com /Grace Kelly /45, and we can send that to you if you're interested, and you can schedule a call there. If there's something you've heard beyond these tips today, and particularly if you know that you're just living really fast paced, really afraid to slow down, living in all sorts of symptoms constantly, worrying about approval from others, being concerned about, really your health, your wealth, your purpose, whatever. If you'd like to schedule some time with me, then I encourage you to look at scheduling that as that invitation is available now. And that will be really to first converse and see if we're a fit. It will not be here's a program. That will be first to see what there is between us and what you're looking at going deeper on. I think we have from Martha, if you look in the chat box. Martha, thank you very much. Martha, my assistant, has just added the Calendly link where you can schedule your call. It's in the chat box. Ladies, I really hope this has been helpful today, and I really hope that you've taken something from it. I can't believe it's the end of the year together and we're at this point. It's been such a lovely experience with all of you showing up on the webinars this year, showing up on the coaching calls, showing up in all sorts of ways. And I really want to thank you for your presence. And I really want to wish you the most joyful Christmas and 2020, the most joyful decade coming up for you ahead, where you're filled with health and purpose and passion and prosperity. If I have touched your heart on this webinar today, please feel free to share it with others. There will be a recording coming soon. And I appreciate you all. Feel free to come on and say bye-bye if you'd like. I'll stop here. Ciao.